You're watching News Central now on News Central Television. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories this hour. President Tinubu calls for an end to Israeli aggression in Gaza, says a two-state arrangement is the way forward. Independent petroleum marketers reach agreement with Dangote on direct petrol supply, and Mauritius Prime Minister Jacques North concedes election defeat. Details coming up now. Now we begin the news now at this hour by telling you that the President Bola Tinubu has called for an immediate end to Israeli aggression in Gaza. Speaking on Monday in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Tinubu warned that empty condemnations are not enough to end the conflict in Palestine, which he said has persisted for far too long. The Nigerian leader made this argument at the Extraordinary Arab Islamic Summit convened to address the current situation in the Middle East. The President Tinubu, stressed the need for all parties involved to adhere to principles of proportionality and respect the rights of civilians. He noted that while states have the right to self-defense, it should never come at the expense of innocent lives. He articulated Nigeria's support for the two-state solution as a beacon of hope, advocating for the self-determination and peace of both Israelis and Palestinians. And now to labor matters. The Nigerian Labour Congress has set a December 1, 2024 deadline for state governments to implement the new 70,000 naira minimum wage, warning of indefinite strike for non-compliance. The NLC accused fuel marketers of inflating petrol prices and contends that the current policies are impoverishing Nigerians, with rising costs and hunger impacting citizens. In a communique issued on Sunday following its National Executive Council meeting, the NLC called for a review of what it calls anti-people policies, noting worsening economic hardship across the country. In July 2024, President Bola Tinubu approved the wage increase, but the implementation has been inconsistent across states, leaving many workers still waiting for the adjustment. Now, earlier we were joined by labor law experts, Oluwadare, and here's that.
The fact that this implementation, this increase was agreed on sometimes in July, and prior to this time, 30,000 has been paid. And even the previous amount that has been paid as minimum wage, some states have been complaining that they're even finding it very difficult to pay. You know, let alone this increase in the new one now being 70,000 naira. So it's going to really impact negatively in no mean measure, especially for the states that they've been earning low. I think the state should also come out clean if they are stating that the amount they are collecting or the amount they are generating, you know, will not be enough for them to service.
Let's also tell you that the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has secured an agreement with Dangote Refinery to lift products directly. IPMAN National President Abubakar Garima announced this in Abuja on Monday after a meeting of the National Working Committee of the association, assuring that the partnership will ensure steady and affordable supply of PMS products nationwide. Garima urged IPMAN members to support Dangote Refinery, citing backward integration benefits and positive impacts on Nigeria's foreign exchange market. Regarding pricing, Garima expressed confidence that negotiations with Dangote would yield lower rates. On compressed natural gas, the IPMAN president said the association is preparing for a seamless transition to CNG refill stations nationwide, as it is currently negotiating with the presidential CNG initiative. To election matters now. Sensitive material for the Ondo State governorship elections set for Saturday, 16th November 2024 have arrived in Akure, the state capital. The materials, delivered by the Nigerian Air Force, were received by Central Bank of Nigeria officials. The Independent National Electoral Commission confirmed the delivery on its official social media page on Monday, marking a key step towards ensuring a smooth and secure election process in the state. And the newly elected chairman of the People's Democratic Party in Abia State, Amar Abraham, says the party will institute a shadow government in order to put the government in power on check. Speaking shortly after the inauguration of the new executive of the state party by the Southeast legal advisor, Barrister Ukpabi Ukairo, The chairman unveils some of their programs. News Central's Chinwe Ogele reports.
Do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the People's Democratic Party.
These men and women emerged through a state congress of the People's Democratic Party that was held a week ago in Omaha. At the inauguration ceremony of the new executive that will pilot the affairs of the party for the next 4 years, the chairman, Ama Abraham, pledges to take the party to a new height.
In the next few days, we will unveil a brand new shadow government that will take over the responsibility of running the most proactive shadow government in any part or any region of Africa. We will have the equivalent of all the ministries.
Other officers of the party believe their party has all it takes to check the activities of the government in power in the state.
I think we are not just new when it comes to experience, but we are new in the management of the party, and we know that our work is cut out for us. What do? Keep the government in check, make sure the Otis government is kept to his promises.
I will go around the 17 local governments in Abia State to mobilize women right to the grassroots.
To go from house to house to plead to them, to ask them to forget the past and focus on the present. But by doing that, I believe that we're going to talk to them, and I believe that they'll come back.
The chairman also dissolved the Elders Council of the party and announces Onyema Ugochukwu as the new chairman of the body. Part of the assignments that this new executive must accomplish in order to successfully drive their cause is to reach out to all aggrieved members of the party.
As we invite them back to join us, we will engage them constructively and make sure that they join us not to destroy this party, but to build this party, because many of them are already regretting. Many people who left this party or who worked against this party during the last elections are already regretting, because they cannot see anything better.
Being an opposition party should naturally create an alternative perspective to government's policy, giving the citizenry an opportunity to see things from yet another angle. In Omaha for News Central, I am Chinwe Ogele.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has set up a 7-man committee to interface with residents of the demolished Gura Shanti located at the Uye district of Abuja. The minister, while condemning attempts aimed at blackmailing government over the demolition exercise, says that it was carried out in an effort to rid the area of hoodlums and miscreants and to improve the security of the capital. Amadin Uyi reports here.
The day commenced with a security meeting with heads of security agencies in the federal capital. The minister of the FCT then led the team to the Ruga settlement, which was recently demolished by the FCT Development Control. From there, he engaged with the displaced residents as he gave the spokesperson an opportunity to air the views of the community.
We are not dragging anything with the government so we can land or we have anything, but we are pleading. Please and please, honorable minister. We are pleading. It's like a mini Nigeria.
The FCT minister informed the community that the demolition exercise was prompted by attempts to rid the area of hoodlums and miscreants.
As security, they're everywhere. We don't know who they do. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. See train station, the place. Not so. Yes, sir. How is the same Kuli people? On some of them from that thing. They have nobody know. If not, I'll see you and I know you. The other person I know, what you could do.
He also added that the FCT administration will continue to tackle insecurity within the capital and ensure that citizens are safe.
No government will say it will just sit down like that. See where they get a threat of insecurity everywhere. If you talk of inflation, I agree. Then you go out of insecurity again. You don't say things don't come back. So the one go fit tackle, no go tackle them now. We don't say we go solve the other problem. Insecurity is a big problem for Nigeria. Yes. And we will not go fit. For our hands to say we could live up so.
The minister then set up a 7-man committee to interface with the displaced residents so as to find a lasting solution. He, however, warned that no temporary structure should be erected on the land. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uhi.
And now to security matters, where the acting Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluwadare has urged Nigerians to support the military's fight against insecurity during his first operational visit to Sokoto, headquarters of the 8th Division. Oluwadare highlighted the importance of community collaboration and appealed for timely information sharing, especially amid the rise of new threats, including the terror group Lukarawas. His visit included discussions with senior officers and assessment of troop readiness in the Tangaza local government area. He also encouraged soldiers to maintain their efforts in securing Nigeria and emphasized that while security challenges are inevitable, the nation's response to them is crucial for stability and peace. And in an open letter, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has called on President Bola Tinubu to restrain Nigeria's 36 governors and the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike from undermining judicial independence by gifting cars and houses to judges. SERAP argues that such gifts compromises judicial impartiality and threatens the constitutional balance of power. The letter, signed by SERAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, urged Tinubu to engage Attorney General Lateef Fagbemi to challenge these practices in court. SERAP stresses the need for improved judicial funding to ensure independence and avoid undue executive influence. The organization warns of potential legal action if the government does not address this issue within 7 days, underscoring the importance of safeguarding judicial integrity and maintaining public confidence in the rule of law. And now to discuss more on this, we are joined by Executive Director, Transparency and Accountability Network, Comrade Oluwole Oladapo. You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much for joining us here this evening.
Thank you.
All right, so now I'm going to ask this question, even if it seems like the answer is evident, but let's start there. How do gifts from the executive branch of judges, such as cars and houses like have been noticed, specifically impact the judicial independence and the public's perception of the judiciary?
Yeah, thank you very much. It is important that we understand how this works in favor of those who do the giftings. There is separation of powers that should have guaranteed, independence of the judiciary. And lack of this independence has tied the judiciary to the apron string of the executive, which is not the way it should be. Now, the federal government has been able to give some form of independence to the judiciary, and that has affected some judgments that we have seen that has made, independent judgments where individuals have gotten judgment against government. But in the case of the states, you see many of these governors tie the judiciary to their apron strings, and they make one of the things that should normally be their working tool, vehicles and houses, befitting accommodation and befitting vehicles for their mobility. You see them tie it. You see governors attempting to untwist the judiciary in their states by, removal of the head of judiciary in some cases. This in itself has a way of compromising. What SERAP is seeking is a position of the civil society in Nigeria. And that is the fact that the judiciary should become an independent arm that runs its own affairs that has its own budget that will be passed and allowed to be run on their own. When you begin to see governors tie their dominance of the judiciary to these benefits that are, that are credible to them, which is legal and which is legitimate, you see it as a way to twist them to do their bidding. So what SERAP is saying, in a nutshell, is the position, and that is the fact that the judiciary should have its own independence, just as some legislators in some states are also having. They have their budget, they control their budget. You don't tie what they will work with to how they operate, and to the fact that you want favors from them.
Comrade Oluwadare, I'm going to ask that you please do us a favor, and if you could perhaps maybe put on your video so that we can also have visuals while we're listening to what you're saying. While you're getting that done, I'd like to ask what you about the feasibility of this recommendation from SERAP. What would this mean for the judicial autonomy in Nigeria, Comrade Oluwadare?
Yeah, thank you very much. The judicial autonomy is sine qua non to the fullness of democracy in Nigeria, as it were. It is sine qua non. Until the judiciary is truly independent, the common man on the street might not have judgment and justice. So when we see a level at which the judiciary is independent, just as we have in legislature and executive, each doing their bit within the context of the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended, we are going to see a situation where the judiciary, especially in states, will give judgment against their governors, if need be, and if that is what judgment and justice should be. But in a case where the judiciary is looking up to the governor for the passing of our own budget, for the release of emoluments and entitlements that should legitimately go to them, of course, you will begin to see influence that is undue in this case. So SERAP is speaking the voice of the society in Nigeria, and we as SERAP is saying that by 7 days, if this is not done, it's just like the case of the local government. It is important that judiciary becomes independent, just as legislature should be independent. That is when we can truly have a similitude of the democracy that we desire.
All right, Mr. Comrade Oluwadare, I want to say thank you very much for joining us this evening to share your thoughts on the matter. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to welcome.
Moving on now. Let's do a short break. When we return, Nigeria partners firm on aircraft maintenance facilities. We'll tell you more when we return. Now, the Nigerian government, through the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development, has entered into a public-private partnership arrangement with a private firm to establish a maintenance, repair and overhaul facility for aircrafts. The new facility is expected to operate as an approved maintenance organization under the regulation of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. According to reports, this facility, the first of its kind in Nigeria, aims to meet growing maintenance needs for aircraft operating within the country, which currently often requires extensive and expensive, time-consuming trips to foreign maintenance centers. Earlier, General Secretary Aviation Roundtable Olumide Ohunayo joined us for more insight on this.
For it to be successful, and I think this is a good opportunity. Let me reiterate here that we already have about 2 or 3 organizations coming up with the same facility. Airpeace is building one at the airport in Anambra. United Nigerian Airline has just announced a partnership with an organization, and they'll be using Enugu. And I think the Akwa Ibom State Airport, the one in New York, also has a very light hangar, and they're also working on partners. And it's good for the industry to help the sub-region. What I would need all of them to do is they should look at what each other is doing, so you don't duplicate. the market. But once you duplicate, you are going to cost more harm than good for yourselves. And like every other business, there are different variants within the MRO sector. There are those who are into repairing of the body frame. There are those that repair the engines. There are those that they repair the hydraulics or wheels. And then those are who do only the wiring and fitting. So there must be synergy to do what is in the market already, so you don't put more pressure or look for what's not in the market and start coming. But by and large, both the ones owned by the airline, being pursued by the airlines, the one being pursued by the government, and not just announced by the federal government, they must be able to earn the certification of the Nigerian Supervision Authority. They must be able, in order to increase having more clients, they need to get certification of the South African Authority, Aviation Corporation, and also need to get certification of Europe and that of the US, the FAA. When you have such certification in your MRO, you are ready.
And now to the power sector. The transmission company of Nigeria has reported another incident of vandalism, this time targeting the 330 kV Lokoja-Gwagwalada transmission line. This follows a previous attack on the 330 kV Shiroro-Kaduna line, which left parts of Nigeria without power. TCN said the recent incident occurred in the early hours of November 9, with transmission towers T306, T307 and T308 vandalized, leading to a power disruption. Engineers attempted to restore the line, but efforts failed, prompting TCN to send patrol teams who confirmed the damage. TCN expressed serious concerns about the growing frequency of such attacks, which significantly impacts the nation's already fragile power infrastructure. Coming up, Mauritius Prime Minister Jagnoth concedes election defeat. We'll bring you details after the break. Welcome back. Now the news continues in East Africa, where Mauritius opposition is on track for a legislative election victory as Prime Minister Pravind Jugnauth concedes defeat on Monday. Although final results are yet to be released, opposition leader Navin Ramgoolam is poised to become Prime Minister for a third time, leading the Alliance of Change coalition. Jugnauth already acknowledged a significant loss for his LEPAP alliance, led by his militant socialist movement in Sunday's election in the prosperous Indian Ocean nation. The Election Commission estimated a strong turnout of about 80%. Today, South Africa honors a true national treasure, artistic legend and icon of African heritage Esther Malangu, celebrating her 89th birthday. Born in 1935 in Mpumalanga, Esther's journey in art began with traditional mural painting in her community, which blossomed into a renowned career marked by collaborations with top global brands and institutions. Her unique blend of technology with traditional artistry has captivated audiences worldwide, solidifying her role as a cultural ambassador for South Africa. Earlier, News Central's Bongani Sisiba was at Malangu's homestead in Mpumalanga for the special celebration and spoke with one of the late icon's daughters, I beg your pardon, and that's Betty Moyane.
And because Trump has always really aligned himself with people.
We'll bring you that at a later bulletin. Now, still ahead, U.S. President-elect Trump urges Russia to de-escalate conflict, and we'll bring you more details after this break. Can you hear me?
That would happen. And because Trump has always really aligned himself with Putin. And Putin, when he congratulated Trump on his election win, is...
Guys, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Okay, that last story said they were celebrating her birthday and then later... I was confused. Yeah. Welcome back. Now, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump urged Russian President Vladimir Putin to de-escalate the conflict in Ukraine during a call made the day after his election victory. Speaking from Florida, Trump reminded Putin of the considerable U.S. military presence in Europe. This conversation with Putin was one of several Trump held with global leaders as he outlined his foreign policy priorities. He also spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and others following his 2024 election win. A bullfighting school manager and former bullfighter Richard Milian voiced opposition to a proposed French law banning minors under 16 from bullfighting. As the French Senate prepares to vote on the bill, Milian argued that the tradition rooted in 200 years of practice holds more relevance than new regulations. While he refrains from calling bullfighting a sport, he considered it a discipline with specific rituals and codes. Milian believes the tradition offers behavioral references and laments that critics often lack understanding of bullfighting's cultural significance.
De les écouter. Et nous, on ne demande rien à personne, on va rester chez nous et continuer à perpétuer ce qu'on a fait avant. On ne compte pas l'exporter au Japon, ni aux États-Unis, ni en Russie. On veut qu'on nous foute la paix et qu'on nous laisse vivre notre passion et notre façon de faire. Sinon, c'est très simple.
Ces gens qui veulent interdire la corrida, ils ne savent pas ce que c'est en fait. Eux, ils ne voient pas l'art que c'est. Et l'émotion que ça nous procure à nous. Du coup, il vaut mieux d'abord qu'ils aillent voir ce que c'est et après qu'ils nous interdisent. Et puis,
des plus jeunes, ça passe forcément par là. Bien sûr. Il est évident que l'éducation et l'approche de l'animal, plutôt des enfants à l'animal, est évident que c'est prépondérant. Un enfant, quand on est petit, on aime les animaux. C'est viscéral. On aime. Mais après, petit à petit, tellement encouragé, tellement valorisé, la torture est valorisée, alors les enfants ne savent plus trop où ils en sont. Donc, ma foi, puisque je peux tuer, ben, je vais le faire. Parce que puisque mon père me le dit, mon grand-père me le dit, c'est forcément bien.
In the Middle East, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has expressed concern over what he described as a very low number of arrests following last week's violent clashes in Amsterdam. Saar reported that Amsterdam's mayor informed him of a special inquiry team established to investigate the unrest. Despite this, arrests figures remain low as tensions continue following Thursday's incident after a football match between Israelis Maccabi Tel Aviv and Dutch team Ajax, which reportedly left about 30 Israeli fans injured. Israel has ordered investigative assistance, while Dutch police confirmed 62 areas, saying Israeli supporters were targeted following online calls to attack Jewish individuals.
I was informed by the mayor of Amsterdam that they formed a special inquiry team. But I can tell that until now, number of arrests is very low at all, from what I see. We suggested our help in the context of the investigation.
Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has dismissed the idea of establishing a Palestinian state as an unrealistic goal amid the ongoing Gaza conflict. Speaking on Monday, Saar argued that pursuing this objective isn't feasible in the current climate and emphasized the need for a pragmatic approach. He cautioned that any Palestinian state would likely turn into a Hamas state, referring to the militant group which Israel has been engaged in prolonged hostilities with. His remarks coincides with a summit in Saudi Arabia where Arab and Muslim leaders convened to address conflicts in Gaza and Lebanon, where Israel is also facing Hezbollah, an ally of Hamas.
So to speak today about establishing a Palestinian state, which will be a Hamas state, as much as we saw that it took 1 year after we withdrew from Gaza Strip, to Hamas to take over the Gaza Strip. We don't want it to happen in Judea and Samaria. We must find ways how to improve, I would say, certain aspects that we can improve, but I don't think a Palestinian state will achieve that. And therefore, I don't think that this position is realistic today, and we must be realistic.
Coming up after the break, business and some sports. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, the Nigerian government's budget deficit has surged to a concerning 7.5% of GDP, reflecting a significant gap between revenue and expenditure. This alarming trend has raised concerns about the country's long-term economic stability. On Business Edge earlier with Dr. Samson Simon, Chief Economist, ARKK Economist and Data Limited, discusses the factors contributing to this widening deficit, the implications for the economy, and potential solutions to address this pressing issue.
Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee. Sadly, the legislation is meeting some headwinds. We fervently hope that the problem will quickly be resolved and we'll find ways to increase revenue. And for the authorities, they need to really reprioritize the budget. If you cannot do everything that you wanted to do, then there is a way for you to put things that you consider very important first. And then the supplementary budget of 6.2 trillion too is not helping matters. So we need to set our priorities right, and we have to find ways to generate more revenue without necessarily increasing the tax rate or making Nigerians or taxing poverty or productivity. So there are a lot of ways that we can get this done. So meanwhile, the revenue, if you look at it, compared for the first half of this year compared to the first half of last year, it has increased by a third. But the reality is that it's still underperforming by 2/3 of what they had projected. So everything needs to be done. The authorities need to find ways to generate revenue, whether domestically or internationally. Crude oil production is also underperforming. They should find ways to solve the problem. It's mainly around insecurity, so it's within the purview of the government. If they are really determined to fix the problem, I think they can fix the problem. But I think there's a lack of political will to actually tackle insecurity in Nigeria, even for aspects of insecurity that really affect the coffers of the state, talking about insecurity in the oil-producing areas of Nigeria.
The Nigerian government, through the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development, has entered into a public-private partnership arrangement with a private firm to establish a maintenance, repair and overhaul facility for aircraft. The new facility is expected to operate as an approved maintenance organization under the regulation of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. CN Mendes, aviation consultant, joined us earlier today on Business Edge to share his thoughts on the expected venture.
This kind of arrangement is something that pretty much any country in Africa will benefit from. An approved maintenance organization is basically a third-party repair shop or maintenance shop where airlines are able to take their aircraft for scheduled or unscheduled maintenance. So just like, when you have a car and the car needs its servicing, but you don't have a dealership nearby, sometimes you're having to, drive to another city or wherever else to go to an approved dealer. However, when you have one of these approved maintenance organizations in the country itself, it makes it a lot easier for these aircraft operators, for these airlines to just take the plane to Lagos, to Abuja, to Enugu, to wherever this AMO might be located, rather than having to fly it into Europe or the United States or Dubai or wherever else they're currently having to send it. So that in itself is going to be a huge benefit to the operators. It will have other benefits in terms of, being able to pay presumably at least a portion of the labor cost in Naira. Things like the spare parts and stuff, that is still going to be dollar denominated, as, those are still coming from manufacturers and so forth. But the more of this that you can actually bring into Nigeria will increase opportunities for highly skilled jobs. It will increase it'll reduce the the costs for the aircraft operators, and overall just be a generally beneficial thing. So, it's a great positive if they're able to execute on it, and I think it's something that has to be pursued in concept, whether by government or private sector or whoever else.
Now, President Nana Akufo-Addo declared on Friday that Ghana had raised the set of farm gate price for cocoa farmers for the second time this 2024 to 2025 season. Initially set at 48,000 Ghanaian cedis, that's $3,062 per metric ton at the beginning of the season on September 1st, cocoa producers will now earn 49,600 cedis. According to the Cocoa Marketing Board, Cocoa Board, this pricing change is effective right now. On Business Edge earlier today, Isaac Agie, analyst SBM Intelligence Ghana, among other issues, he gave insight. Incidents of things that can impede production hike and cause farmers to lose out. His thoughts here.
And for instance, farmers were expecting that government will roll out, stringent policies or good policies to actually curb illegal mining. That's what they were actually expecting on the farmers. They possibly not that marginal increment in, the farm gate price is good, but they were really looking forward that government will roll out measures to curb the illegal mining, because that takes significant components of our production capacity, followed by smuggling. And so for the other factors, although this year government is really hopeful that, the weather is good, so they are definitely going to get about 650,000, metric tons by the end of the year. We've had news that some farms, somewhere around the Ashanti region, are producing more than they did last season. So definitely government is looking at that angle, but one big, some big factors that will really affect our production capacity or the beans that will be able to export will definitely be smuggling and illegal mining. For me, these are the two big tickets.
Now, sports. The Nigeria Premier League Football League Board has imposed sanctions on Plateau United and Bendel Insurance for security lapses and violent incidents during recent home games on Matchday 11. Now, these measures aim to curb fans' violence in the league and foster a safer environment for all involved. Following their Matchday 11 game against Rangers International on 10th November, Plateau United faced penalties for failing to ensure adequate security. The NPFL has imposed a 3-point and 3-goal deduction on Plateau United as punishment. The club also faces a fine totaling 4 million naira. Bendel Insurance were similarly charged with rule breaches following their Matchday 11 games against Kano Pillars on 9th of November. As a result, Bendel Insurance will also face a 3-point and 3-goal deduction and a total fine of 3.75 million naira. In Premier League, referee David Coates has been suspended after a video allegedly showing him making derogatory remarks about Liverpool and former manager Jurgen Klopp surfaced online. This suspension by the PGMOL, the refereeing body, is effective immediately, pending an investigation. While the video has circulated widely on social media, its authenticity remains unverified, and it's unclear when it was recorded. Coates, a seasoned Premier League referee since 2018, recently officiated Liverpool's 2-0 victory over Aston Villa. The video reportedly references a 1-1 match between Liverpool and Burnley in July 2020, when Klopp criticized Coates' decisions, claiming fouls against Liverpool players went unpunished. Referees must disclose their team allegiance to PGMOL. Coates, a Notts Country fan, is barred from officiating games involving them or Nottingham Forest. The PGMOL stated they would provide no further comments until the investigation is concluded. Casper Ruud secured a straight-set victory over Carlos Alcaraz, winning 6-1, 7-5 in their ATP Finals opener in Turin. Ruud dominated the first set and then fought back from 5-2 down in the second, capitalizing on Alcaraz's 34 unforced errors. This was Ruud's first win over Alcaraz in 5 encounters, placing him in a strong position to advance to the semi-finals for the third consecutive year. Alcaraz, who had earlier won the French Open and Wimbledon, struggled with consistency and risks early elimination if he loses to Alexander Zverev in his next match. Ruud clinched the opening set in 36 minutes, and despite a resurgence from Alcaraz in the second set, Ruud closed out the match with an ace on his third match, completing a comeback with 5 straight games. And that's all this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the stories we brought your way. President Tinubu has called for an end to Israeli aggression in Gaza, saying a two-state arrangement is the way forward. And independent petroleum marketers have reached agreement with Dangote on direct petrol supply. We also told you that Mauritius Prime Minister Jugnoth has conceded election defeat. Now, do remember you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Able TV, and on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino. Appeal.